question is fiscal. With 450 million FEMA dollars being reallocated to open Alligator Alcatraz and 600 million taxpayer FEMA dollars being used to now open more concentration camps and ICE burning through $8.4 million a day to illegally detain people, how much does it cost for fascism? How much do the taxpayers have to pay for a fascist country?
Americans went to the polls in November, and they had a choice between a Democratic candidate that had an open border, no enforcement, fentanyl, drugs, human trafficking. And they had a choice between that and a candidate that said, close the border, get illegal immigrants out of our country, stop the fentanyl, stop the human trafficking, stop the drugs, stop the crime, stop the violence. That's what Americans voted for. Americans voted for a border that is secure. And I support the president enforcing our immigration laws.
I have read a dozen or so books on authoritarianism and fascism. You said in Seward that you were not a fascist. Your complicity says otherwise. Have you ever spoken out against this administration and its Project 2025, which is a fascist machine?
Fascists don't hold town halls with open question and answer series.
My question.
Jeez, pretty crazy. How we're being told that the cupboard is, pretty much bare for healthcare and schools, yet somehow a bottomless checkboard is available the moment we talk about funding mass detention centers. It's pretty insane. This was a few months ago, but still very relevant to now. It's pretty crazy.
This morning I ended up on Nebraska Talk, and it was a bunch of people crying, why does anybody care about Nebraska? When we voted for Kamala Harris, when I cast my vote for Harris, that was me saying, I care about you, and I want you to survive and thrive. Okay, you knew better than anybody else that your state thrives and survives off of migrants' backs. Okay? And instead of them waiting for ICE to come, they decided to peace out before they could come and get them. I don't know what to tell you guys anymore. This is what you voted for. Whether you like it or not, whether you want to believe it or not, this is exactly what you voted for. And now you're feeling it. What do you want us to do? You want a government handout? That's socialism. You voted against that. No. Sadly, the reality is that you'll probably have to sell a lot of your farms for pennies on the dollar to large corporations and manufacturers. But don't worry, they'll probably let you work there for minimum wage.
Hey, it really is tough to watch folks vote for policies that directly threaten the very immigrant labor, their own livelihoods, and farms and properties and other businesses actually depend on. Again, I think one of the first videos on this channel touched on this topic, and this kind of thing is just getting worse. It's prevalent, it's out there, and it's active.
I have a question for the rest of America. Does anyone even care about Nebraska? Does anyone even care?
Do you care about Nebraska? Because I have a feeling you voted for this. I mean, Nebraskans don't even care about Nebraska. Let me ask you another question. Who exactly did you think were going to work in the fields and in the farms after all of the regular day laborers, people of color, are no longer there anymore? Who did you think was going to do it? Did you think that there was just this army of white workers ready to get into those farms and pick all the vegetables? Now people like you who voted for this to happen are upset that something's affecting you, because what people like you tend to really vote for, it's not the economy. It's because you want to express racism and bigotry, and he was the only way that you could do that. But now it's affecting you. All those farms are disappearing, including that 300-year-old farm. And you want to know why nobody's upset at that? It's because you guys did it to yourself. You'd rather vote to have your racism easily spread across the United States instead of thinking about yourself, because you always vote against your own interests, don't you? And isn't it just like you? You voted to hurt other people, but now when it's starting to hurt you, you want us to feel sympathetic for you. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, it really truly is a shame, right? No matter how much you spin it, to see just family farms getting absolutely pinch, squeeze, whatever term you want to use, by the tariffs, labor shortages, etc. Especially when the only ones standing to gain are pretty much, correct me if I'm wrong, giant corporations really ready to scoop up that land for pennies on the dollar is, I think, a good way to put that, really.
Well. So this past Friday, Tyson announced that they were going to be closing a factory in Lexington, Nebraska that employs 3,200 workers. Because I think it's incredibly important to keep track of these things, a reminder that 72% of people in Dawson County, Nebraska voted for Donald Trump, and they voted for this to happen to themselves. And the reality is you probably voted just so that Riley Gaines could feel vindicated for finishing tied for 5th place. Not that we need further proof to explain why Donald Trump's trade and economic policies are disastrous for this country. This is actually real-time results. Starting on November 13th, where Trump announced that he is going to be rolling back tariffs on a wide range of agricultural products, including certain beef items. You can see this on the official whitehouse.gov website. The president has thus determined that certain agricultural products shall no longer be subject to the reciprocal tariffs. I'm sorry, wasn't this the foundation of the entire campaign that he ran on? Beef has its own little bullet point. And Trump justifies this by saying it is a move aimed at easing high prices and meeting domestic demand. Let's put a pin in that. You've got his reciprocal tariffs that are driving up prices for the American consumer, but demand still exists. However, people don't want to pay the higher prices, so he removes the tariffs on the international imports of beef. And what the president is effectively saying when he does this is American products and domestically made things are too expensive. Corporations can't make profits if they rely on domestically produced goods, and Trump loves free trade capitalism, so this is what happens. Senator Deb Fischer of Nebraska says basically, this is awful and will have devastating results. Well, it's a good thing you just raised healthcare premiums for your constituents. Representative Mike Flood says our cattle ranchers are being abandoned. Well, Trump basically said this back in February during his State of the Union address, where he said, ranchers, farmers, I love you. You're gonna go through pain, but it'll be worth it, and I love you. Governor Jim Pollan said there's plenty of opportunities for our cattle rancher farmers. Well, glass half full, I guess. This is a perfect example of how to combat the number one thing that MAGA says when it comes to the tariffs. If tariffs are bad, then why do other countries do it? Tariffs aren't bad. The EU uses tariffs very strategically. They use them, though, to protect their domestic manufacturers and industries. By putting tariffs on beef imports, it actually allows our cattle ranchers and our beef industries to be able to compete with the pricing from the other countries. When you lift the tariffs, then we rely on the foreign imports. The president just traded off our cattle ranchers in Nebraska for Brazil, Canada, Mexico, and you guessed it, Argentina. And so a reminder to 72% of you in Dawson County, you absolutely voted for this.
Dang, that's super straightforward, you know. And he's right, you know, it's absolutely alarming to see how even just single plant closure can absolutely completely gut a local economy to the tune of practically billions, you know, and that essentially just proves how much we need to protect our regional supply chains and the workers who keep them running. Again, like I previously mentioned, we have videos on these massive plants shutting down, and it's just so many people are affected, and it's so sad.
Maybe y'all saw the news out of Nebraska today. Our state has, in fact, gone bankrupt. Due to his tariffs and the loss of all of our migrant farm workers, our state has lost over $500 million. It's so bad that Governor Pillen had to call and ask him for a bailout, and we don't know if he's going to give it to us. My husband and I did used to own a farm here in Nebraska, and thanks to the loss of all the workers, we went bankrupt, and bankruptcies in our state overall are at a record high right now. It's still just so weird to me because we all voted red. Nebraska, every county, every district overwhelmingly voted red, and that seems to have been the reason that we're all out of business now. And that just doesn't make that much sense to me. If you vote for a party, shouldn't they protect you? Shouldn't they pass policies that will help you stay out of bankruptcy? And it's not just the farms, but The whole state is going under because we voted red. When you're a farming family like mine, I can see now that it is important to think before you vote. Maybe y'all.
Ooh, that last quote right there. Put that on a shirt, man. Mass produce it everywhere in America. But you know, truly massive red flags when a state burns through a nearly $2 billion surplus, by the way, in just a couple of years. Only, to my knowledge, end up slashing public services to cover the deficit. It's think before you vote, like she said.
Very happy about that. We're going to do something very quickly and easily on beef to get it down. The ranchers understand that. They're so happy for what I've done. I saved them. I don't think you'd have any beef in this country if I didn't do that. So we're very proud of that.
What I understand is, you know, with all this imported beef, it actually is increasing the cost of your beef in the stores, because if we can produce it here and you don't have all the transportation costs, it saves the packer money, saves the consumer money to get it on the shelves. I don't understand why it wouldn't be much cheaper for us to be able to produce it here at home like we've always done until very recently. It's what made America great 100 years ago, because we could provide for ourselves and export to other nations our surplus.
Demand hasn't slowed down one bit, which has led to the cyclical rise of the increase of, you know, beef prices. So lower stock of beef, higher demand for beef, prices are likely to continue to rise for the next couple of years. We can teach you how to cook and how to buy those cheaper cuts to stretch and last. Everybody wants those nice tender middle steaks, but if you want to buy those, your wallet has to be prepared to start taking a hit. It's such a limited amount. Prices going up on boxed beef all over the country.
So I'm very happy about that.
You know, we constantly hear all this talk about protecting American jobs and yada yada, but yet here we are watching our own cattle ranchers get completely thrown under the bus for cheap imported beef, while local processing plants are already shutting their doors. I mean, that first individual really said it best.
Tyson Foods decided to close their beef packing plant here in Nebraska. And it's out in Lexington, Nebraska. And of course, Deb Fisher takes right to Facebook and says things like, "Oh, I'm so upset at them. I'm going to have to get in touch with them." Really? Come on. So I put in the comments, because I don't normally comment on these, but I felt the need today. And I dropped down in the comments and said, well, so your actions, your policies, and your decisions, which attack their workforce and other things that they rely on, are finally coming home to roost. You know, do you blame them? And then I asked her, I said, do you think your policies maybe might not be the right path? And, you know, I can't exactly remember the exact wording I did, but it was like basically saying, don't pretend. You're on the wrong path and you are making the wrong decisions, and it's going to bankrupt our state. And if you keep it up, you might be on the attack. Just gonna say, people might be upset at you. I don't live out west, but that's a western Nebraska environment, very rural, very red. And when your policies start negatively impacting those people, by the way, those people are all the Hatter people, I wouldn't want to piss them off. We know what they can do.
Dang. Again, you know, this right here pretty much perfectly captures why we can't let mega corporations dictate our local economies, because the second a giant like Tyson, for example, pulls out to save a few bucks, they drag the town's entire fragile ecosystem straight down with them, right, completely down with them. But that concludes the video. A lot of unfortunate negative stuff unfolding, but you know what? We're covering that, and let's hope and pray things get better a little bit later this year. And if you haven't already, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more content. See you then.